Welcome back to the Exempt List. Today we are talking about all things quarterbacks as we head into the final week of the regular season. Today I have my friend and quarterback guru, PFF, Seth Galina. We're going to get right into it to talk everything quarterbacks in the final week of the regular season. Oh, Happy New Year, everybody. I'm tired. I'm still a little hungover from Sunday, but it's okay. We move. I have my friend Seth here, Seth Galina, who works at Pro Football Focus. Seth, what do you do at Pro Football Focus now?
It's been a lot of just hanging out and kind of staying off the radar so no one knows that I'm not actually doing any work, which I think is your dream also, to be honest. So,
oh, yes. That is my dream. That is my dream. Give it about 5 weeks and I think I'll be there. I'll be literally no one will be able to find me after that Super Bowl is played.
I do work with, I don't do any content anymore, but I do work with some of the broadcast teams, helping them throughout their week of preparation.
That sounds fun. Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like, you're prepping for, like, you're getting relatively in deep with, like, the two teams that are playing in whatever matchup. Like, we have a few games, so it's like I can't get insanely deep, but enough that you can learn some stuff, and then I just get to go up and talk about, like, whatever I feel like it. Like, I'm pretty open ended in what my part of the job is. So it's like, hey, if I think this is a cool thing that the freaking Pittsburgh Steelers are doing, not that the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing a lot of cool things these days, but like
just in general,
like, hey, all right, they'd like to run this play and this is why it works and like how it fits into the context of their team. And then we talk about it. And I that sounds pretty cool to me. So
it is cool. It is cool. Something else that's cool about Seth is he's the greatest flag football player in the entire country of Canada. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. And there's no way you can fact check any of that. So
there's definitely not a website that has stats on it or anything that you can go find out.
No, of course not. You can't Google me in flag football and find my actual stats. So like, we're good. Like, we can actually have this conversation about how good I am in flag football.
But first we need to get to a team that might be better off served playing flag football, and that is the Carolina Panthers. We hit funny stuff from the weekend real quick before we dive into this. David Tepper threw a drink on a Jaguars fan after the Panthers lost, which was equal parts disturbing and funny at the same time. Obviously, it reflects the success that the Panthers have had this year, winning 2 games, and they just lost 26-0 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm assuming that some Jaguars fan was heckling David Tepper. And he got caught on camera, like throwing a drink on someone. And then when the Panthers were asked about it, hey, what do you have to say about this? They have just kept spamming, no comment, no comment, no comment. As someone who used to watch like World Star videos in high school, like I can appreciate the chaos of throwing a drink on someone on camera, but it becomes like infinitely less whatever humor is involved in it, because like that's a pretty easy reason to want to fight someone. But whatever humor in it is involved is kind of zapped when you realize like no one can touch David Tepper for doing this. Like, he's a billionaire NFL owner, one of the richest people in the world. So like when you have that level of wealth and status, you kind of get to do things without any judgment or any retribution coming back your way, which is like, okay, well, now you just threw a drink on someone who, if they walked 5 feet in your direction, would get sent to prison. That makes it kind of lame, and it's not as funny. I mean, when you think about it in that light.
Capitalism is not as funny. That's what we're saying.
That's the real point here. Because, dude, I was just thinking, imagine if that person rightfully wanted to fight David Tepper. You couldn't get anywhere near him.
No, and if this happened on the street, like whatever, like two people like me and you, right, low level individuals in society, like you would have to face consequences to that, and then there would be this like moat in between metaphorical moat to get to David Tepper. Now, my question is like, because I saw the video, but was the glass open, or did he like throw it on the glass, or did he hit the guy?
I'm assuming it's got to be like open air. Yeah. That's what it looked like. And then one of the favorite parts at the end to me was he tossed the drink and then he did a little cup flip in the air. And I was like, okay, you feel cool.
It's such a toddler reaction, man. Like dude, you're the owner of the team. Like the team stinks. A lot of it is your fault. I'm ready to put it all on him, to be honest. But like, so yeah, it's such a visceral like toddler reaction to just like want to throw. Like I can't control my emotions right now. I know they won the week before, but like you obviously know you're bad. It's not like anything changed by beating the Joe Barry defense of the Packers. So like,
no, they beat the Falcons the week before that.
Oh,
they
lost. Right.
They had scored 30 on the Packers, but still lost. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was excited. I was so excited. I was like, hey, me and you are both Bryce Young stans. Should I say that out loud? Do you want me to reveal that about you?
Sure, go ahead. Big fans.
We both really liked him coming out because I think we both thought that he was this little genius who like could run around and do all that stuff they did in college. And it's so far, I mean, that's just not.
I thought in college I was like, okay, I don't really see like super high upside here, but I thought the floor would be a little bit higher because he was good at a lot of like traditional quarterback things, but that just becomes so much more difficult to do when you're like the smallest guy on the field and you're not even close to the fastest guy on the field. Like it's a lot different than Kyler, because like you watch Kyler against the Eagles this past weekend. It's like, okay, yeah, he's 5'10", but he's also maybe the fastest player on the field, and he's got one of the stronger arms in the league. It's kind of hard to say that about Bryce. So yeah, I understand we do this thing where it's like, okay, we'll just imagine if he had a real team around him. Imagine if he had all these other things. But wouldn't you like your number one pick that you trade all those assets for to be able to overcome some of that to like any degree? And now you're just stuck in the mud. Like, dude, Jake Browning just scored 34 points on this defense. Joe Flacco lit this defense up. And I know that they both have better weapons than what's going on in Carolina, but I don't understand how you could see that and not be scared. And I think that all of this in conjunction has probably made David Tepper, like, already the least like owner in the NFL. He's only owned this team for 5 years, and it's been nothing but a disaster. So I was looking at like the head coaching list, and he's about to hire his third full-time head coach. It'll be the fourth head coach. He's had, including interim, 6 head coaches. He bought the team 5 years ago. Like, what are we doing here?
And there's all the off the field stuff, like the practice facility and all that stuff.
Oh.
Like, so it's
I think
well.
It's coming down now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Charlotte now, and the facility was in Rock Hill, which is like right on the border of South Carolina, North Carolina. It's probably like a 30-minute drive from Charlotte. And I don't think it's still up now or it's coming down now, but when it was up, bro, you could drive past it. It was just this huge unfinished building in the middle of nowhere that he just left there because of some dispute that he had with the city on who was going to pay more for the funding of it. It's just a disaster. And that doesn't even get into stuff that he's done with the Charlotte FC team that people don't like. He's got a lot of work to do over the next, I won't even say 2 years. I'll call it 1 year to try and get back in people's favor. But based on the video, it doesn't really seem like he cares about stuff like that. All right, let's move on from the terrible Carolina Panthers. One more funny thing from the weekend. The refs completely just messed up the end of the Cowboys-Lions game. I usually am not like a person who says every year, oh, the referee is getting worse. But no, this year it really does feel like it's taken a little bit of a step back in terms of just procedural stuff, paying attention to what's going on in the field. Like, I'm so salty because I lost my fantasy title, not to Justice, but another one with my college friends, where I was going against Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And if they had just called the correct tripping penalty on the correct player at the end of the game, that drive doesn't happen, and I don't get gashed on the last drive where it was just all Laporta and all Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I end up losing my fantasy point a game by 8 points. But I don't really understand how they're this bad at this. I know that people will call referees are just a part-time job. This is a well-paid part-time job, man. Like you are not, you are not struggling to eat if you're an NFL referee. And yeah, I know those guys have other jobs like when it's not within season, but it's not like they're struggling, you know?
What would you do as a full-time ref? Like you can't practice.
I don't know.
You can't. So I don't know what you would do Monday to Friday if you're a full-time ref. To get better at your job. Like, do you watch film? Like that's not going to get you that much better. And you can probably do that anyways, like, and still have enough time. So I don't know what you would do as a full-time ref that would make you better, so much better at your job. I couldn't tell you. My ref take is always just like refs in any sport. I don't think football is worse than any other sport. I think it is a really hard job. And I don't think we're at the point, like we've never been good. Like reffing has never been good. We're able to see the bad calls a lot clearer now, obviously in the last 20 years. And then with better replay and then all the overturns and stuff like that. So I think what I like is they've been doing the expedited reviews I think last year was the first year they started doing that thing where they're just talking, like they don't go into the replay booth. They don't stop the flow of the game. They just go and like, okay, well, actually the ball should have been swatted at the 19 instead of the 18. And let's just go. CFL has been doing that for like 10 years. Of course, it took the NFL a lot longer to get there.
American excellence, right there.
I think the next thing is always just going to be like the eye in the sky. And I don't think it's like a robot thing. I don't think that's very possible yet. And with the technology we have, but like it's like, so the tripping penalty, right? Which was like, it's an insane call to make. And like I get it from this perspective of, okay, I see like 4 legs there. I see 1 foot go out. And somehow I would think that it's his own blocker who's tripping him. Like, and why that would be a penalty, I don't even know either. Like that's why.
So if you want to trip your own teammate, go for it.
Yeah, like it's really bad. You know, just to have like the guy who's like in the booth, or like the 3 guys who are in the booth who are watching the sky cam, and they just be able to say, no, that was Aiden Hutchinson's leg, and they just pick up the flag. And it takes 5 seconds. It takes 10 seconds. Like that's to me the next step, I hope, in where we're going, because I don't think you get better. I don't think you get worse necessarily. I know you said you think it's maybe worse this year. Maybe you're right, but I don't think you can there's no way to get better but on the field officiating. Yeah. So like the next thing is say, okay, we started with the expedited reviews. Let's go with some like real like okay, that was a hold, that wasn't a hold from a guy, you know, in the booth or whatever. I think that's the only way.
Dude, the thing that kills me sometimes is like how long some of these reviews take when we can see really quickly. Like last night on the Texas Washington game, when the guy, I don't remember, I think it was for Texas, had like the butt fumble pretty much. And the ref just somehow didn't see the ball come out of his hands. But okay, I don't know how he didn't see it the first time. But the second time, like when you're going through the reviews, I'm like, bro, how long does this take? Like, how long could this possibly take? Okay, you looked at the camera on the sideline. You saw it came out. You saw a clear recovery. Move on. That should take like 20 seconds.
And I will say, like from the broadcast angle watching the game, I did not see the ball come out. But then like any other angle on the field, which is where the officials are, that ball is like super loose while he's running because he hits his own guy. And yeah, I agree. It's like, we just don't need that. I think there's this idea of like the head ref has to like have like, I don't know if it's like final say, but like he has to be involved in this process. It's like, no, I don't care. Like someone who has better angles should be able to override. And like, he is the real head ref of this game. Like he's in the booth, but he's the real head ref of this game. And we don't need to go through this whole process where they're talking back and forth or whatever they do. I don't know what's said on the headsets there, but it just doesn't need to be like that. Can we go to this game for a second?
We can do whatever.
What are your thoughts on the last, 50 seconds or whatever?
Now that Dan Campbell has admitted that they sent multiple linemen there in an attempt to confuse the Cowboys, you're kind of playing with fire there, I feel like. Because one, like either way, the ref has to announce on a microphone to the entire stadium, hey, number 68 is eligible, right? So I think when you send all those guys, it doesn't really add that much of a competitive advantage for yourself, because I can send 100 guys, but if the one guy that I want to be eligible gets through, then they're just going to say that guy's eligible when we line up to play the down. I don't think that's as big of a edge as Campbell thinks it is. And I think you're allowing human error to get into the situation when you do something like that. But at the same time, dude, like, the ref, just turn around and look and like just figure out who's talking to you. It takes 5 seconds to figure out who's actually speaking to you.
Dude,
you know,
when Skipper runs on the field, when 70 runs on the two, like Sewell and Decker are like right in front of Brad Allen. And like, those are two large human beings.
Yes.
Right in front of your face. And he gets so distracted by Skipper running on the field. And he's like, you're the guy I want. Like, you're the eligible guy. I know it. It's like you said, it created a lot of human error where if they had already been on the field and then Decker goes over, then there's no issue, right?
Yeah. But yeah, that's another issue for another day. Hopefully, I would imagine after this, Brad Allen will not be refereeing a playoff game, because that's how the NFL punishes you. Like, they'll come out and they will back you hard with the PR and say that you did everything right. But when it comes down to, can I get a game that matters? Absolutely no. Absolutely not. You cannot. So I don't know. I kind of feel like the end result of that game was okay, because the Lions shouldn't have gotten the ball back in the first place, because they got called on the wrong tripping. And maybe that will lead to NFL coaches saying we can't wear the same color pants as the other team, so we can get that right. I don't know. But like you said, there should be someone in a booth that can take 3 seconds to say, actually, that was Aiden. And then you fix it and you move on.
Dude, why would Aiden Hendershot try to trip his own? I don't understand why you would think that.
Dude, when all you need is a first down to win the game, he's gonna that will get you investigated for point shaving and gambling.
Exactly.
Because all you have to do is get a first down and the game's over, and I win my fantasy title. But no, we're not allowed to have nice things. Last funny thing for the weekend before we get into some rapid fire playoff quarterback hot takes. The Steelers are like quietly benching Kenny Pickett. And I think it's interesting because I feel like this is something that feels a little bit foreign for the Steelers franchise to like do something negative to a player in general. But it kind of feels like Kenny Pickett has been healthy for probably about a week and a half now. And they are still rolling with Mason Rudolph, which to me is encouraging in the sense that the Steelers realize they need to make a change at quarterback. They already got rid of Matt Canada. You know, we've seen not just Mike Tomlin, but this entire franchise. I called them a cult because they've run on sentimentality more than any other franchise in the league, I would say. And hey, to their point, like, they win a lot more games than most of the teams do. It hasn't come to Super Bowl championships, but I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said about just being competent and winning your games every single year, even with a crap roster. But is this the right move to bench Kenny Pickett for Mason Rudolph with a chance to make it to the playoffs at the end?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's definitely the hot hand thing where, you know, he threw for 300 yards against the Bengals. The Bengals defense is not very good, but threw for 300 yards against the Bengals on a Saturday game. And then it's like, well, and he got like the playmakers involved, right? He got Pickens involved, and it's like they haven't been able to do anything explosively the whole season. And, you know, Mason Rudolph is not the quarterback of the future there, obviously. But, you know, he'll sit in the pocket. You know, we know he's a good deep ball thrower. Every time, it's so funny. Like, when anyone says anything about Mason Rudolph, we're still going back to his Oklahoma State days. We're like, well, he was a good deep ball thrower at Oklahoma State. Like, dude, that was like 19 years ago. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. It's going to run out. The whole backup quarterback thing always runs out eventually. And it'll probably happen this week because they're not a good football team. At least... I know they win games, and they're like this weird team that has no reason to win games, but they're not a good football team. There's a few good players on a team for sure, but it's not a good football team, and so it'll run out this week most likely, and we're going to be back to square one. But I do think it's the end for Pickett. He's, like you said, he's obviously healthy. They literally said it the other day. They're like, he's good. He's bad. No, he's good. So it's like, all right, he's obviously healthy. I will say, like, I'm not a Pickett guy. I think it was ridiculous the hype he got in the offseason.
Yeah.
People ate that up, all the offseason hype. And then he went like 5 for 5 against the backup Falcons defense in the preseason.
Yeah. It was the third stringers. It wasn't even the backups.
Yeah. So, like, okay, well, it was never going to happen. The one thing I will say is just, like, he looks worse because I think that the Matt Canada was just not a good coordinator. Now, I'm not saying like you put him with just a competent coordinator and he's like this amazing quarterback. I don't think that would ever happen, but I think statistically it would look a little better with not Matt Canada. So yeah, you go with Rudolph. He's been around. Like, he'll throw some balls up to Pickens, and that's kind of what this offense needs right now. It's just like throw the ball to Pickens and then like play against like a run defense for 2 straight weeks. Seahawks can't stop the run. Dude, 100 and 100 for like Harrison and for Najee and Jaylen Warren. Bengals the Bengals with DJ Reader can't stop the run. So it's like, I mean, they couldn't stop the run with DJ Reader there. So it's like, well, it was a perfect scenario. And you just ride with Mason Rudolph. It'll come crashing down to earth, whether it's this week or in the playoffs. So yeah.
Yeah. I just want Mike Tomlin, if you're listening to this, and I know you are, you don't have to start Mason Rudolph next year. Just because there's been a couple decent performances to close the season, that doesn't mean anything for next year. You know what this is, right? He was your third string quarterback coming to the season for a reason.
Yeah. No, just start Bo Nix next year when you draft him in the first round.
Yeah. Wow. Because there's no quarterbacks out there really, which is tough. It's tough.
Well, especially where they're picking, because then you're going to get you're going to pick 22nd again, and then you're going to pick another Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix. Yeah. Maybe you trade up for Penix if that's possible after last night. I don't know.
Are you a Penix guy?
No, but I okay. Well, it's complicated because I feel like when you watch him play, you're like, God damn, this is really cool and this is awesome. But you go back to the archetype, like 24-year-old lefty, injury history. It's a pretty slim list of guys with those attributes that have worked out. But I don't know. I think the arm talent's real.
Why does lefty mean anything? I
don't know because there's just none of them. So you guys get slighted, Well, who is it? Yeah. It's just Tua, right?
And he's not even we don't claim him. we don't
right.
claim Tua.
The two best lefty quarterbacks in the past 20 years of football, Tua and Michael Vick, are not even real lefties. How does it make you feel?
Mike Vick's not a real lefty?
No, he writes with his right hand.
Oh my God. My whole world just collapsed.
Right?
Oh,
all right, guys. I guess we can call Mike ambidextrous, but still not a full true lefty. You guys don't exist out here in the wild. And that's fine.
No, isn't it like a very small number? It's like 8%. It's like the same number of like redheads in the world or something. I don't know.
All right, I'll Google it and then we can move on to what we actually came here to talk about. What percentage of Americans are left-handed? 13.1%, while neighboring Canada has 12.8%. There we go. Now we're going to flip over to how confident we are in some of these quarterbacks that are slated to start playoff games. We're going to go from a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being, hell no, you shouldn't even be a starting quarterback. 10 being, I think you can go ahead and win a playoff game. And we'll talk a little bit about what it will take for each quarterback to win a playoff game and potentially make it to the Super Bowl. And we'll start off with the former MVP frontrunner, Brock Purdy, San Francisco 49ers. How confident am I that he can win playoff games? Extremely, because his team is amazing. I'll give that a 10, maybe an 11. Look, Brock is good enough to win with this supporting cast. I think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl. Is he good enough where you want to pay him for, 5 years, $300 million? Like his stats will suggest he get paid. I don't know about that, but in this situation, this is a good enough situation where he can win.
I mean, the situation is incredible. I know we don't have to get into the Purdy discussion, but like what we do know is that it's hard to find other situations like this in the history of the league with like a guy who we've decided is like a number one play caller, not even just top five. We've just decided that Shanahan is a number one play caller. And we also already decided that Kittle is a top 3 tight end, that Christian McCaffrey is top 3 running back and probably number 1. I think, I guess the thing that most people probably won't talk about is Ayuk as like maybe the number 3 best receiver in the league. Like it's like Tyreek, AJ Brown, and Ayuk right now.
Yeah.
So, and then Debo, right? Like, besides the fact there's also Debo Samuel who does everything on that team and gets all the yak yard and stuff. So I don't know. I find it hard to think about a better situation that any quarterback's ever been in. I'm a little agnostic. Like the more he wins, it's hard to say anything, but like, man, there's not a lot of potential for negative plays in that offense. And I think that's the thing that people don't realize is like, I don't know, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback. I don't care what people think. Like Trevor Lawrence is very obviously a better quarterback. There's a lot of potential for negative plays in that offense with that surrounding talent. They're in bad situations because they can't run the ball on first down or second down or third down, like whatever. They're not a great play action team. They're not a great screen team. So it's really just like, hey, and they run the ball as much, like it's not like they don't run the ball at all. They run the ball. They don't get anywhere. So now you're in like 3rd and 8, like every drive. I think Ridley and Kirk are like good receivers. I wanted Ridley to be an elite receiver. I'm not sure that's the case. But he's like close to it. They're both really good, but it's like there's not an elite receiver on the team is what I'm saying. So like, you know, you look at Lawrence, it's like there's a lot of availabilities for negative plays when you play quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. There is not a lot of availability for negative plays when you play quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. It's just the truth. Like guys are open on time, guys are open in rhythm. You run the ball really well, so you're always in 1st and 10, you know, all that stuff. So I think that's where we have to like understand like the differences in how we evaluate quarterbacks. You know, Herbert the same way. There's a lot of potential for negative plays in the Los Angeles Chargers offense.
And San Diego's right.
Exactly. So like I think that's where I am with the Purdy discussion. I think our friend Nate Tice said this like a few months ago. He's like Purdy agnostic, and I'm in the same boat right now. But I do lean towards this is the best supporting cast, and I'm not sure Purdy makes that big of a difference.
I think what is funniest to me about like the recent Purdy stuff is how like so many people were arguing that he's like the MVP of the league, all this stuff like that. I don't think anyone actually wanted to give him the MVP because as soon as they lost that game to Baltimore, his odds plummeted from a favorite to like plus 1,000 on certain sites. I was just like, okay, we kind of all understand what the deal is here. Don't need to be disingenuous and say he's like actually the driving force of offense, but he's good enough to win a playoff game. So we'll put the confidence there at 10. Dak Prescott, how confident are we that he can win a playoff game? I don't think this is a 10. I think this is more like an 11. I think it's more like a 7 for me. I don't trust their run defense. And that, to me, that's one of the scariest things that can happen in playoff football. You just get carved up one game in the run. Me and you and some other friends of ours talk about this all the time. This whole like certain subset of people who talk about football love to talk about safeties playing linebacker. And well, that should just be what we do. We should just play safeties at linebacker. And that's good enough. And like the Cowboys are a great example of, okay, like I do think like number one thing in run defense is probably, in terms of individual players, I think like, we're not talking about scheme or anything like that. I think individual players is probably like your 1 and your 3. Like your 2 interior defensive players, interior defensive linemen, they are probably the most important players here, right? But after that, it's like, you know, maybe the edge guys, but like after that, it's like obviously the 2 inside linebackers. And it's like, okay, well, the Dallas are a great example of, they have these 2 linebackers, Damone Clark and Marquise Bell. Marquise Bell
is a safety playing linebacker. Damone Clark is a speed guy. He played linebacker his whole life, or at least since college, but he's a speed guy side to sideline. And it's like, hey, this is what happens like when you don't have a good interior defensive line. Osa Odighizuwa is a good player for sure, but other than that, it's been rough. Like Mozzie Smith just been so far one of the worst players in the league, especially at that position. So it's like, okay, well, now offensive linemen could get up on you, and you can't handle that because you're 215 pounds and you're a safety, right? The Cowboys' run defense would be good if they had that presence there, where the guards in the center would have to stay on double teams, the tackles would have to stay on double teams, and then those two linebackers go sideline to sideline. There's no problem. But once they start getting to the second level, like you're just not big enough to take on big offensive linemen, and then we see the issue that comes with having a bad interior and a bad run defense, and then it trickles down to the pass game too. It's like, well, now we got to they already do put a lot of guys in the box because they're a cover one team, they're a man-to-man coverage team, and I do think the turnovers they're based on turnovers because they can't actually cover people.
Yes. That's what happens when they get into the games against like the real OCs. They just get carved up, minus the when they beat the Rams earlier this year. But I don't think that this team can beat the 49ers. I don't think they have a prayer to beat the 49ers. But yeah, like the safety linebacker.
Three straight years they played the 49ers, twice in the playoffs and once this year in the regular season, and they haven't moved the ball. They haven't moved the ball, and they really don't. They can't stop the 49ers. So
it's not a good situation, I don't think, for them all the way. And the last thing I'll say on Dallas is like, you're going to do the safety linebacker conversions. Like you realize that structurally someone still has to play linebacker in the defense. Like that's it. And it doesn't matter if you put him, if he was a safety at one point and now he's playing like behind the three technique, you're a linebacker now, buddy. That is what it is. So yeah, I always thought that was funny. We'll just move a safety and linebacker. Okay, well now you have someone who doesn't play linebacker playing linebacker, and you want to run out there in the defense like no one at the second level. Is that what you're actually saying? Okay, well you'll never win a game. I don't know. I hope we can just learn a little bit more, like just basic. It's not Madden, you know. It's
no,
it's not.
You
Madden.
have to be physical in this sport.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be a little strong. It's football. Next team or next quarterback, Jared Goff, quarterback of the Lions. I would say this is about a 7, probably for the same exact reasons. I don't really trust their defense. I think the Lions have maybe a little bit better supporting cast like as a whole on offense because like you can really, really take the load off Goff at times in that offense, but he's still your quarterback, and the defense is still not great. So I think I would go with a 7 here for the Lions.
Yeah, it's probably the same. I think obviously, like if we look at the difference between the Cowboys offense and the Lions offense is more quarterback driven on the Cowboys side. You're worried, even though it's never happened and it probably will never happen, you're worried if a team can figure out how to take away CeeDee Lamb, which is like easier said than done, clearly. Just you can't cover this guy. But I think there's with the Lions, I don't think there's anything to say other than we haven't said about Jared Goff, which is like, hey, well, what happens when you got to be a little more quarterbacky, right? And you can't because that's just not you're not built. You're just not that good. I would say, right? That's just Jared Goff is, and so I made this. I said this the other day. Like I'll probably bet on them every week that they're in the playoffs because I think that offense as a whole is good enough to win games, and they're going to be they were the underdog in Dallas, so they're going to be the underdog in certain games if they keep winning. But the defense is really bad, and I think this team can win one shootout in the playoffs. I don't know if they can win 3-4 shootouts in a row in the playoffs, and that's why it's like a 6 or 7 for me.
Also, like this team is not guaranteed to even get into a shootout with every team they play with, because like the back half of the season, Goff has not played his cleanest football at all. And like if he's going to be stuck in the mud, they are good enough to like score as a primarily running team. Like I go back to when they played Chicago in Detroit, and they needed a 2-minute drive when Goff was struggling. They literally ran the ball for a 2-minute drive, and they got down the field, and they ended up winning the game. That's a tough way to win the playoffs, though.
Look at their third down run rates. Look at their fourth down run rates. Like, they know who they are, and that's great. But it's tough. We just say this every year. We say the same thing. Because everyone gets so excited with Goff and Jimmy G and all these guys. And it's like, okay, but you're going to need them in a playoff game, and probably 2 playoff games where you're playing against a real defense. It's a tough environment. It's stressful. Like, can the guy playing quarterback make plays in tough situations? And it just doesn't happen. Like, to do it 4 games in a row or 3 games in a row, we just haven't seen that.
Yeah. So we'll put that at 7 because it's a good team, but I think the Goff situation in the defense is pretty real for them. Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think I'll go like a 6 on this. I don't trust first of all, the defense is just flat out bad. I know that the Cardinals are doing some cool things and they look like a team on the rise. It looks like Kyler Murray's probably going to stick around as a quarterback there, but 35 points at home. Like, you got some serious issues, buddy. I don't. And honestly, like, on the flip side, I don't think Jalen Hurts he's not having a great year by the standards that he put together last year with probably a better structured offense around him. I would be a little concerned about what the future of this looks like if I'm an Eagles fan, because it just appears that he is so heavily reliant on things around him being good to the point where, like, is he going to be a guy that can elevate an offense once that the contract like really starts to kick in and you got to start shedding a couple of these pieces? I don't know. I think that that's something that they kind of need to figure out what the best version of this looks like so they can continue that once he actually like really does become one of the highest paid players in the league.
I don't think people realize how dominant this O-line has been for 2 years. I mean, for more than 2 years, but like, this is as dominant as offensive line as a unit, and it's getting old, right? Like, Lane Johnson's not going to be around forever. We know Kelsey. I could see the Kelsey brothers retiring this offseason together.
Yeah,
like, doing the whole
this
thing.
offseason, yeah.
So, like, you know, Mailata, obviously a young player, but like could ascend to like a really, really good left tackle. But at the same time, like, you lose Lane Johnson and Kelsey and this whole thing changes. Like, the whole thing changes. And we get to the point where it's like, okay, well, the way we're talking about the Bengals right now, and they're like, hey, T. Higgins might not be a Bengal next year. Well, when do we get to that when with Devonta Smith and AJ Brown? Like, okay, well, AJ Brown will be around because he's the number 1 and he's incredible. What if you lose Devonta Smith and the 2 O-linemen? Because it's going to happen soon. Like, for sure, the offensive line, we're going to have to go through a rebuild. But, you know, if we're talking about it with the Bengals, which I mean, I obviously think they should re-sign T. Higgins, but if we're talking about it, at least we're going to talk about it with Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. What does this look like? I kind of agree with you. Like, I don't know if Hurts is that type of player that can elevate a team when it's not perfect around him, and it's been perfect around him for 2 years.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, they did score 31. They had a 90, damn near 100-yard pick six to kind of push them over the edge at one point. But I don't know. Like, we've watched this Eagles team all year, and even in games where they scored, it's a little off. And then when you go to a game where you're losing like to the Seahawks and the Cardinals, Drew Lock runs in your house, and
the defense is horrifying right now.
Horrifying. And like, I don't even know if, like, you look at the Sean Desai versus Matt Patricia combo, I don't even know if it's one or the other. The personnel is just flat out not good. Like, they don't have anything beyond the defensive line.
I think we got to the end of the Slay Bradbury thing, and they're good. They were good players. Like, I'm not even trying to say that they were never good. Like, they were good. It's just eventually you just can't do it anymore. I think we're there. The linebacker situation is horrifying. And I think Hassan Reddick was probably never a top 5 edge rusher. like we all thought he was last year. I mean, I don't think he has the power to be an all-around player like that. He's a really good speed guy, got some good moves. Kind of eventually you're going to need a bull rush. Eventually you're going to need, something like that. So I don't think he was ever that guy. Maybe a top 15 player for sure at the position, but never a top 5 player. So yeah, I think they're, and then
Eagles fans are going to get you, bro.
I know. Losing Hargrave, they've replaced Hargrave obviously with Jalen Carter, but you'd still rather, like right now in their careers, you would rather Javon Hargrave than Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it's
maybe over the course of their 2 careers, when it's all said and done, probably Jalen Carter.
Jalen hit that rookie wall, man.
Dude, what are your thoughts on Jordan Davis? Like, is he? I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's like he's so close, but also very far away at the same time. Because like you have these plays where the power and the athleticism and the physicality is so overwhelming. But then there's just plays where nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
He's on the field. And I don't know. I go back and forth on that because like I see it. Like you could be this guy, but you're just not yet. But I mean, this is only year 2 for him.
Yeah, it's only year 2.
Maybe figures out, like I said, Jalen Carter, I know he had a sack this week, but he seems to kind of hit a little bit of a wall. He had some long season. And I kind of understand that because like you go straight from like winning a national championship versus TCU straight into draft prep, which goes horrifyingly bad for you, I think as it did for Jalen Carter. And now you're in the end of December off of like a year run straight of football. I can imagine that might be a little taxing, but still, like they're going to need him to kind of get past the crap that they got to get past in the playoffs. And with how they look right now, I don't think anyone would be surprised if they lost on wild card weekend, except, the Bucs. I don't know if the Bucs or, the Falcons or the Saints or however that NFC South matchup plays up next week. I know. We'll try to get to that in a minute. But right now, look, if Dallas wins this week, they win the NFC East. That's a pretty disastrous result for Philly, I think. And they would go to Tampa, which is, I don't know. Maybe they could win if Canales just dials it up against Patricia. But even that's a long shot for the Bucs. Let's move on to the Los Angeles Rams and Matthew Stafford. What would you put their confidence level at as far as just winning a playoff game? This was kind of tough for me.
Yeah,
because I would say like a 6 in a generous way.
Really? So I think Matt Stafford might be the best quarterback in the league this year. So like I think he can go out. I think the concern is probably like offensively. The concern might be, I hate to say it might be Cooper Kupp. Like he's just not himself, right? And he came off the injury, like so maybe that he'll get healthy, and maybe this is not the end of Cooper Kupp. But that would be my concern: is like, do you have a number 2? Now they do a great job of getting Puka Nacua open. He does a good job getting himself open, obviously. But that would be my concern. Like you see, like in man coverage, Cooper Kupp is just not. I think maybe there's this communication issue with him and Stafford, or connection issue with him and Stafford. Like maybe he's getting open and it's not there. They're great against zone, but eventually like you get to the playoffs and like teams can play man in the playoffs because if you're in the playoffs, you probably have a relatively good defense minus all the teams we just talked about. But yeah. So like I think that would be my concern offensively, but I think the way Stafford's playing is legit top 3, top 1, like whatever. The defense, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I trust a little bit of Raheem Morris, and I also trust when you have a 3-tech that never lost a rep in his life that you can make it work. But obviously this is a defense that is so unbelievably young and that would scare me. So it's like offensively it's like a 10 and then defensively it's like a 4.
Yeah. They're so weird. Like which averages out to about a 6 or a 7. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm just a little bit worried about a team that was in dogfights with the Saints and the Giants over their past 2 games. That worries me a little bit. But Stafford is blacking out right now.
And like you said, it's all defense, right? Like I trust the offense, but the defense is just not. There's not a lot of good players on that defense, man. I mean, maybe I'm underrating them, and maybe some of these rookies like a Kobe Turner or like Lake or I don't even know these guys.
Byron Young has like 9 sacks.
Yeah, he's having a good year. Did you like him? I think the Wake Forest guy, you liked him coming out, right?
I did like Kobe. Yeah. I didn't watch Byron Young because honestly, there was another player.
Byron.
Yeah, and I watched this Byron. I watched the Alabama Byron Young. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, why are we talking about this guy as like a 3rd-round pick? So I totally missed that there was one from Tennessee that is currently lighting it up. Yeah, the Rams, like they had a funny draft strategy this year. It's just like, let's just pick old dudes and see if they can play right away. And it's kind of working out for them.
Yeah.
Outside of Puka, like Avila, he was an older guy. Kobe Turner's 24. I think Byron Young's 25. So you're kind of getting some of those guys in the later portions of the draft that might be ready to play. And I think it's funny that their strategy, to a degree, their strategy of screw the early picks, we'll use 1st and 2nd round picks on veterans, and then we will just acquire 15 day 3 picks and take as many dart throws as we possibly can just to see if any of these guys stick. And look, they've gotten some competent players out of it, but they might actually have like some real dudes now with Kobe and Byron Young as long as Aaron Donald continues to stay at this level. Like Kobe Turner was the 3rd-round pick from Wake Forest, and he has 9 sacks this year. That's pretty insane for a defensive tackle. I don't care if it's all your work or if it's a factor of playing next to Aaron Donald. If you're a rookie defensive tackle with 9 sacks, that's something to really pat yourself on the back for. So we'll see what happens. Lamar Jackson.
I mean, 11, 10, obviously.
11, 12, 13,
14.
I mean, that's like the Super Bowl favorite right now. I don't even think we need to spend too much time on that. No team is blowing out teams like the Ravens are this year. Hopefully they can make that continue to the playoffs. And honestly, this year seems as good. It seems to set up as well as any other year for Lamar Jackson to finally get over the hump and, make it to a championship game and potentially get to a Super Bowl. So, let's put that at an 11.
They've had like such stupid losses over the last 2 years, including this year. The one that pops out is the Browns one in Cleveland.
Yes.
Which never, they've had all those losses. Like
the Steelers game too, they shouldn't have lost.
Yeah, so like they're like 12-3, 11-4, whatever they are. This is like truly one of the best teams of the past 20 years. Like,
yes.
And I know the record. We think about the Patriots going undefeated in regular season, stuff like that. Like, this is truly one of the best teams of the regular season of the past 20 years. So this is they're at 11 for sure.
Yeah, the Ravens have a point differential of plus 210 right now, which is
against a tough schedule, man.
Yeah, against a tough schedule too. Like they're not playing, chumps. I think the streak where like they blew out the Lions, then they had a tough game against the Cardinals. They blow out the Seahawks, they blow out the Bengals, blow out the Jaguars, blow out the 49ers, blow out the Dolphins. Like,
dude,
this is
sick.
This is crazy. So I really hope they don't choke because I would love for people to stop talking about Lamar like he's some scrub just because he hasn't had the playoff success that people would expect him to have.
Can I say the Lamar thing? Just like, this idea that this year he's suddenly this guy who's a willing passer, which was said on the broadcast a few times. The guy was a willing passer at Louisville. Like anyways, we don't have to get into that.
I know. We don't have to get into it, but come on. He played for an NFL coach in college, right? Come on. I know Bobby Petrino's run as the Falcons coach was brief, but he still did it. All right. Tua Tagovailoa, Miami Dolphins. It's tough for me because I don't want to say that this offense couldn't beat anyone any day, but I don't know. To me, like the game that Tua had on Sunday is very worrying to me because it's like, bro, at some point, like you have to react to what's happening in front of you. Like when the coverage changes or the picture changes or someone's not open that you thought was going to be open, you have to be able to adjust off that. Like it's in the best and worst ways, Tua is kind of a football robot. And that is what scares me about this offense. So, but I think I'll put it like a 7 now with the Bradley Chubb injury. You're down both your edge rushers. You had a bad game on offense. You probably should be trending down a little bit.
Dude, Melvin Ingram's going to play like 50 snaps a game going forward.
That's crazy.
Like that might not be good. Like Van Ginkel's having a good season at the other edge, but like he's not Chubb or Phillips, right? Like he's a good rotational player, good guy who can get out in space, play some inside linebacker or whatever, but he's not. Yeah, luckily like Wilkins and Sealer on the inside are pretty good players, Raekwon Davis. But yeah, that's the tough thing. I think the defense is generally good, and obviously since not a great game last week, but since they've had Ramsey back, they have a guy who can play man. Like Xavier Howard's not really a great. Like I think we thought Xavier Howard at some point was a great man corner. He's not anymore, at least. So you have Ramsey there. Now you can play all your funky coverages where Ramsey's man to man, everyone else is zone, like all that stuff. So I think there's some good things there. You could probably expose the linebackers like David Long in coverage. Really great run defender. A guy is a guy who I think the we talked about the Cowboys. The Cowboys would love to have a run defender like David Long, who's not afraid to hit a guard in the mouth. You know what I mean? So there's the defense probably okay, and then Tua is just this is a team that I think on a play for play basis is still can always move the football, always move the football. I think that's credit to Mike McDaniel, and then it's a credit to Tyreek being kind of a unicorn out there. I don't think people realize what kind of you can't play this guy regular.
You can't.
So it opens up a lot. And then when you have Jalen Waddle on the field, who hopefully will be back for the playoffs, then it's tough. So on a play-for-play basis, they move the football. It's just turnovers. That's what kills them, turnovers. But it's the turnovers that are the pick against Roquan. It's not fluky. This is not a tip ball. This is not fluky, man. This is they were two. Down.
There were two that were basically the same thing because Roquan got one himself and then he tipped another one that got picked off. People go the tip passes, interceptions. You kind of look at what type of tip passes they are to me in order to figure out how fluky they are. If you are throwing a tip pass that look just like the pass you threw that got intercepted, to me that's not fluky. It's like I said before, react to what is happening in front of you. Just because it's drawn up on the sheet one way doesn't mean it's going to absolutely 100% play out in that manner. And honestly, it's a testament to Mike McDaniel that it does as much as it does as much as it does.
When we watched the Rams go from Goff to Stafford, and look, they're going to have Mike McDaniel's going to have his Goff moment. Sorry, it's going to happen. But when we saw the offense change, and it's okay, well, now I have a quarterback that I don't have to work for at 100% all the time. I can call it progression read because there's no progression reads in this Dolphins offense. It's not Tua going, okay, this guy's covered, this guy's covered, this guy's covered, this guy covered. Okay, I throw to this guy in a linear manner. It's you're going to pick the left side and you're going to throw it to the left side to one of these two guys. And you see, and the Ravens game was such a great example of that, and I think you'll see it this weekend against the Bills because you saw it a bit in their Week 5 matchup or whatever it was. Linebackers are just moseying on over to wherever he's looking because there's no chance of him coming back to the opposite side, like you said. So, man, it's tough. And again, Mike McDaniel is amazing. Tyreek and Waddle are amazing. They do a great job, just like the 49ers have done over the years. And obviously, Mike McDaniel coming from there to make the O-line look better than it is. And I think it's interesting, the similarities. When Terron Armstead is there, they have the same thing as the 49ers, which is a really elite left tackle and kind of no one else. And McDaniel and Shanahan do a great job of not making it look like they're not good.
Yeah. So I'll put them at an 8. We're getting close to time. So I'm going to put these final two together because I think one we can kind of give it a 10 off the respect that he's earned over his career. Mahomes. I would never bet against Mahomes. I would never come out and say Mahomes cannot win a playoff game. I can't do it. As sloppy as this offense has looked this year, the resume is too strong. I can't do it. So let's move on to Joe Flacco. We'll end the show here. What's the confidence level that the Browns can win a game with Joe Flacco?
I think the defense is legit, obviously. Kind of like the Cowboys, great pass rush, playing a lot of man coverage. They can get it done that way. I think a lot of this run of Flacco, and I know Cooper wasn't there last week, but this run of Flacco is a lot of Amari Cooper. It just being
being
the
awesome.
Best receiver in the league the last 4 weeks or whatever, or the 3 weeks that he was playing.
You get to play a Jets team that's kind of checked out. Not even kind of checked out, totally checked out on the season because it's been an emotional disaster for them.
So that would be my concern is I don't know if Flacco has been like this amazing quarterback, even though the kind of box score stats were there. So that's my concern. And it's Joe Flacco playing in his late 30s. Like, I mean,
he just turned 39, or he's about to turn 39 in like a week or two. So this is look. I here's how I feel about the Browns, and we'll close out the show here. They have a game against right now. If the season were to end today, and I don't know how much movement there's going to be before next week, they would be traveling back to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. We just talked about how there's a propensity for negative plays in that offense. You know, I think that's a situation they can capitalize on. So for them to win one playoff game, I might make it like an 8 or a 9 because I just think they're a better team than Jacksonville right now. But as far as going through a Super Bowl, I would put that like a 0. I don't.
That's a 0 for sure.
Yeah, I don't think so. All right, it's a good episode.
You don't want to talk about Baker Mayfield, Taylor Heineke, and Derek Carr?
No.
Okay,
no.
Good. Me neither.
No, I don't. I couldn't care less who wins that division, and I say that as a fan.
I hope my favorite team does not win the division. Like, I don't want that to happen.
I need the draft pick more than anything. I don't need to get blown out by Philly. I need the draft pick. You can send us a voicemail on the show at speakpipe.com/0blitz. Ask a question. You can ask me a question or send your hottest take, and we'll listen to reply to them on the show. We'll be back with another episode of the Exempt List every Tuesday. I'm Charles McDonald. You can find me on Twitter at 4verts. Seth is at PFFSeth. And Stone Rochelle, our producer, is on Twitter at SJ Rochelle. And we will see you next week.